Your parents told you to save your money? Your grandparents did the same. Put money aside. Don't spend it all. Be responsible, and you'll be fine. So you've been doing exactly that. You've cut back on lattes, skipped vacations, avoided buying things you want. And you've managed to save $5, $10, maybe $20,000. You feel proud because you're doing what you're supposed to do. But then you look at that number in your savings account and you realize something terrifying. At this rate, even if you save aggressively for the next 30 years, you're never going to be wealthy. You're never going to retire early. You might not even be able to retire comfortably. And the worst part, you've been saving every penny. Inflation has been quietly stealing your money's value. And people who invested their money have been watching their wealth multiply. The harsh truth that nobody wants to tell you is that saving alone will never make you rich. And today, I'm going to show you exactly why. What's actually happening to your money, and what you need to do instead. Let me start with a story that will make this crystal clear. Imagine two friends, Sarah and Mike. Both start their first real jobs at age 25, making $50,000 a year. They're both financially responsible, and they both commit to putting aside 10% of their income, which is $5,000 per year. Sarah, following traditional advice, puts her $5,000 every year into a savings account, earning about 1% interest. Mike takes his $5,000 and invests it in a simple stock market index fund that historically averages around 8% annual returns. They both do this consistently for 40 years until they're 65. Let's see what happens. Sarah, the saver, ends up with about $225,000. That sounds like a decent amount, right? But Mike, the investor, ends up with over $1.3 million. Same amount saved every year, same discipline, same time period, but wildly different outcomes. Mike has nearly 6 times more money than Sarah, and that difference is life-changing. That's the difference between barely scraping by in retirement and living comfortably. That's the power of investing versus just saving, and that's why saving alone will never make you rich. So what's actually happening here? Why does investing produce such dramatically better results than saving? The answer comes down to a few key factors, and the biggest one is something called compound growth. When you save money in a regular savings account, you might earn a tiny bit of interest, maybe 1% per year if you're lucky. On $10,000, that's $100 a year. Not terrible, but not exciting either. And that $100 just sits there. Next year, you earn another $100 on your original $10,000, plus maybe $1 on the $100 you earned. It grows, but incredibly slowly. But when you invest in the stock market, something magical happens. Let's say you invest $10,000 and it grows by 8% in the first year. You now have $10,800. In year 2, you don't just earn 8% on your original $10,000. You earn 8% on the full $10,800. So you make $864 instead of $800. The next year, you're earning returns on an even bigger amount. Your money starts making money, and then that money makes more money, and it snowballs. Over decades, this compound effect becomes absolutely massive. The money you invested 20 years ago has been compounding for 2 decades, growing exponentially, while money in a savings account has barely moved. Now let's talk about the silent killer that's destroying your savings right now. Inflation. Inflation is the general rise in prices over time, and it means your money buys less tomorrow than it does today. On average, inflation runs around 2 to 3% per year, sometimes higher. Remember when a movie ticket cost $5? Or when gas was under $2 a gallon? That's inflation at work. The actual dollars in your wallet didn't change, but what they can buy did. Here's the devastating part. If your savings account is earning 1% interest, but inflation is running at 3%, you're actually losing 2% of your purchasing power every single year. Your account balance might say $10,000 this year and $10,100 next year, but that money buys less than it did before. Over time, this is catastrophic. If you saved $10,000 and just left it in a savings account for 30 years, even if it earned some interest, inflation would have eroded so much of its purchasing power that it might only be worth the equivalent of $5,000 or $6,000 in today's dollars. You worked hard to save that money, and inflation stole half of it. This is why saving alone doesn't work. You're not actually preserving your wealth. You're slowly losing it. Let me give you a real-world example that shows how dramatic this difference is. Let's say in 1994, 30 years ago, you had $10,000 and you put it in a savings account. Today, with modest interest, you might have around $13,000. Sounds like you made money, right? But because of inflation, that $13,000 only has about the same purchasing power as $7,000 in 1994 dollars. You actually lost purchasing power. But if you had invested that same $10,000 in an S&P 500 index fund in 1994 and just left it alone, it would be worth over $100,000 today, even after accounting for inflation. Same starting amount, same time period, but the difference between barely breaking even and multiplying your money tenfold. That's the cost of just saving now. I can already hear what some of you are thinking. But investing is risky. I could lose money. The stock market crashes. Savings accounts are safe, and you're not wrong to think about risk. Investing does involve risk, and the stock market absolutely does go through crashes and downturns. But here's what most people don't understand. The risk of investing is actually lower than the guaranteed loss from inflation when you're thinking long-term. Yes, the stock market might drop 20 or 30% in a bad year. That's scary when it happens. But over periods of 10, 20, or 30 years, the market has consistently trended upward despite every crash, recession, and crisis you can imagine. Meanwhile, keeping all your money in savings guarantees that inflation will erode its value. You're not avoiding risk by just saving. You're just choosing a different risk, the risk of staying poor. Let me also address the idea that savings accounts are completely safe. They're safer in the sense that you won't see your account balance drop, and they're usually insured by the FDIC up to certain limits, so you won't lose your money if the bank fails. But they're not safe from inflation, and they're not safe from opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is what you give up by choosing one option over another. When you keep $50,000 sitting in a savings account, earning 1% when you could have invested it, earning 8%, the opportunity cost is enormous. You're giving up potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. That's not safe. It's expensive. Here's another angle that drives this point home. Think about wealthy people. Think about people who have built serious wealth, not just lottery winners or inheritance, but people who actually built wealth over time. How many of them did it by saving money in a savings account? The answer is basically zero. Wealthy people invest. They own businesses, real estate, stocks, and other assets that grow in value over time. They understand that money sitting still is money dying slowly. They put their money to work, creating more money. This isn't some secret conspiracy or insider knowledge. It's just basic math and an understanding of how money actually works. Saving is important for short-term needs and emergencies, but investing is how you build wealth. Let me break down exactly what happens when you invest versus save, using specific numbers so you can see the mechanics clearly. Let's say you have $1,000. A savings account earning 1%. After 1 year, you have $1,010. After 10 years, you have about $1,105. After 30 years, you have about $1,350. Your money grew by 35% over 30 years. But inflation over that same period probably eroded 40 to 50% of your purchasing power. So you actually went backwards. Now let's invest that same $1,000 in a stock market index fund, averaging 8% returns. After 1 year, you have $1,080. After 10 years, you have over $2,150. After 30 years, you have over $10,000. Your money grew by 10 times. Even accounting for inflation, you're way ahead. That's not magic or luck. That's compound growth doing what it does when given time. I want to address a common misconception. Some people think you need to be rich already to invest, or that investing is only for people with thousands of dollars lying around. That's completely false. You can start investing with as little as $1 on many platforms today. You don't need to be wealthy to invest. In fact, investing is how people who aren't wealthy become wealthy. The earlier you start, even with small amounts, the more time compound growth has to work its magic. Someone who invests $100 a month starting at age 25 will end up with way more wealth than someone who invests $500 a month starting at age 45, even though the second person invested way more total dollars. Time is the secret weapon, and it's available to everyone regardless of how much money you have right now. Now, I'm not saying you should never save. Saving has its place. You absolutely need an emergency fund and a savings account with 3 to 6 months of expenses. You need short-term savings for things you'll need in the next year or two, like a down payment or a car or a wedding. Savings accounts are perfect for money you need to access quickly and can't afford to see fluctuate in value. But once you have those basics covered, every additional dollar you're putting into savings beyond your emergency fund is a dollar that's losing the race against inflation and missing out on the wealth-building power of investing. It's like putting your money in neutral instead of drive. You're not going backward into debt, which is good, but you're not going forward either. Let me paint a picture of what your financial strategy should actually look like. First, build your emergency fund. Get 3 to 6 months of expenses into a high-yield savings account. This is your safety net. Second, pay off high-interest debt like credit cards because that interest is killing you faster than investments can help you. Third, contribute enough to your employer's retirement plan to get any matching contributions they offer, because that's free money. Fourth, open an investment account, whether it's a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, or a regular brokerage account, and start investing consistently. Even if it's just $50 a month, start. Okay, invest in simple, low-cost index funds that track the broad market. And fifth, stay consistent. Keep investing every month regardless of whether the market is up or down. This strategy, not just saving, is what builds wealth over time. I also want to talk about the psychological side of this because it's huge. There's something comforting about seeing your savings account balance grow. Every month you add money and the number gets bigger. It feels safe and predictable. Investing, on the other hand, can feel scary because the balance goes up and down. Some months your account is worth more, some months it's worth less, and that volatility makes people uncomfortable. But you have to understand that this short-term discomfort is the price you pay for long-term wealth. The people who get rich from investing are the ones who can tolerate watching their account balance fluctuate and not panic. They understand that a drop today doesn't matter if they're not selling for 20 years. The people who stay poor are often the ones who can't handle any volatility and keep everything in savings where it feels safe, not realizing they're being robbed by inflation. Here's a harsh reality check. If you're in your 20s or 30s right now and you're just saving money without investing, you're on track to work until you're 70 and then live a modest retirement hoping Social Security doesn't run out. That's not a scare tactic. That's basic math. The cost of living keeps rising, healthcare gets more expensive, and Social Security wasn't designed to be your only income source. If you want to retire with dignity, travel, help your kids, or have any financial freedom, you need to invest. There's no way around it. Saving alone won't get you there, no matter how frugal you are or how hard you work. Let me give you one more comparison to drive this home. Imagine 2 scenarios for your financial future. In scenario 1, you save aggressively, maybe putting aside 15% of your income into savings accounts for your entire career. You're disciplined, you never touch it, and after 40 years, you have a couple $100,000. You retire and try to make that last for 20 or 30 years of retirement. You have to be incredibly careful with every expense. Can't help your family. You worry constantly about outliving your money. In scenario 2, you invest that same 15% into index funds. After 40 years, you have over $1 million. You retire comfortably, your money continues growing even in retirement because you don't need to withdraw it all at once. You can help your kids with college or a house down payment. You can travel, you have freedom and options. Same discipline, same sacrifice during your working years, but completely different outcomes based on whether you saved or invested. I need to be clear about something before we wrap up. Everything I've shared in this video is for educational purposes only and not financial advice. I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and your situation is unique. You should do your own research and consider consulting with a professional before making financial decisions. My goal is to open your eyes to why saving alone isn't enough and to motivate you to learn more about investing, not to tell you exactly what to do with your money. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Saving is good for short-term needs and emergencies, but it's a terrible wealth-building strategy. Inflation silently erodes the value of saved money, while investing harnesses compound growth to multiply your wealth. The difference between saving and investing over a lifetime isn't just a little more money. It's the difference between struggling in retirement and living comfortably. It's the difference between working until you drop and having the option to retire early. It's the difference between leaving nothing for your kids and leaving a legacy. Every month you delay investing is a month you're losing to inflation and missing out on compound growth. You don't need to be an expert or have a fortune to start. You just need to begin, stay consistent, and give time a chance to work. If this video changed how you think about saving and investing and made you realize you need to take action, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button. And if you want to learn exactly how to start investing, what to invest in, and how to build a portfolio that actually grows your wealth, subscribe to the channel because that's exactly what we cover. In the next video, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to start investing, even if you've never done it before and you're starting with just $100. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.